It's been a while, but my dudes, Hazbin Hotel is finally back with a brand new season. One that sees Vox's rise to power as he wants to capitalize on Adam's death by bringing the fight right to the gates of heaven. Thanks to Prime Video, I've already watched this season like a billion times over the last month, so I've been itching to talk about these 8 brand new episodes as they release. Because we got a lot of crazy revelations ahead of us. Backstories, game-changing lore, banger songs, you name it. We got a lot of ground to cover, so let's just dive right into it. And of course, spoilers ahead for the first 2 episodes. Season 2 hits the ground running as Vox Tech is paying the media to portray Charlie as an unpredictable tyrant, whose actions have left Hell in a dangerous position where not only could heaven retaliate for the death of Adam, but Charlie herself could turn on sinners at any moment. Charlie's refusal to comment on the situation allows Katie Killjoy to get away with depicting her in an ambiguous light, diffusing Tom's more optimist and accurate take on Charlie's stand against the extermination in favor of pushing Vox's anti-Morningstar agenda. Vox later scolds Katie for running a headline that he viewed as too positive. He only wants their coverage to strike fear and make everyone question Charlie's intentions. Media manipulation plays a pivotal role in the season as Vox truly embodies the concept. He knows how to curate the perfect image for himself while making any perceived competition come across as unreliable scum. He knows the exact right amount of information that the public needs to be on his side, what facts need to become fiction, and what fiction needs to be passed off as reality. He's built a devoted audience of sinners who love everything with Vox Tech's name slapped on somewhere. He's turned brand loyalty into a cult, and Charlie's going to have to give everything she's got to free the denizens of hell from his brainwashing. As we see, the hotel is brimming with new guests. There's various voices in the crowd all expressing excitement to kill angels. It's pretty obvious that they're not interested in what the hotel's actually about, even if Charlie is in denial about it. Alastor's angered over his broken staff, and it's not just because it reminds him of the fact that Adam completely whooped his ass. The condition of his staff has put a handicap on his power. Considering we know Alastor has a master who's likely contributed to his power, there has to be a reason why it's not fixed yet, and it's left him extremely unmotivated to act as the host of the hotel. Remember, in the pilot, Alastor showed up to the hotel right after Charlie called her mom, so presumably his employment is actually a mission by his master, who at the very least may be in cahoots with Lilith. We have the introduction of Baxter, a mad scientist who works for Vox Tech, as indicated by his color palette, namely the healthy heaping of blue and red. Baxter has a history of Pentious, as indicated by him refusing any and all similarities to the inventor. And despite the affiliation of Vox Tech, Baxter isn't here to be another puppet for Vox. He's genuinely interested in Charlie's little redemption experiment and wants to study the hotel out of curiosity, approaching something that's relatively faith-based through a scientific lens, which is a pretty interesting dynamic to have. This leads us into Hasben Guarantee, a song that lays out all the core conflicts for the season. Charlie's denying her trauma over the aftermath of stopping the extermination, the fact that she watched her friend fall alongside an archangel, and instead of facing her trauma and all these issues in a healthy manner, Charlie decides to just double down and try to handle everything on her own. The Vees' controversial verse in this song reveals why they oppose the hotel. It provides an alternative to a sinner's afterlife that completely disrupts their economy. They need sinners to be vulnerable, down on their luck, and most importantly, convinced that they are stuck in the worst place imaginable so that they'll have no qualms with selling out to the Vees. Despite the Vees' transparency in chewing people up and spitting them out the absolute second they're no longer useful to them. Because hey, they may leave you broken and worse off than before, but at least you got to have fun, be famous for a bit. However, something that threatens not only the hotel, but the Vees themselves is Vox, as it's clear he views himself as the true leader of the Vees, and his god complex drives his desire to be the only one worshipped among hell. During this song, we see Alastor completely censor himself out from this shot where Charlie's introducing all of her friends to the camera, not only referencing his disdain for video and being filmed, but it also alludes to how he's pretty checked out from Charlie's antics this season. He's got bigger fish to fry. He's on a mission to liberate himself from his own deal, and he's not trying to hide how all of this is beneath him. Charlie's quickly hit with the reality that sinners are just eager to kill angels after all the exterminations, and the guests assume that staying at the hotel will be their ticket to a free-for-all, which makes total sense, and frankly, I don't know how Charlie didn't see this coming. She's kind of all over the place this season, and it will absolutely get worse and probably provoke a really angry video essay out of someone. Charlie simply didn't account for the politics of heaven and hell when going full throttle with Hasben. She didn't consider that those with power on either side side would be resistant to the idea of redemption, and instead of taking a step back to re-examine how she should approach these things, she's still desperately trying to get everyone to drop their grudges and roll with her season 1 antics. She's out here saying, "We can't be as bad as angels," while on a mission to turn everyone into angels. What are you doing, lady? It's kind of insane how Nifty, the one who actually killed Adam, has just kind of obtained celebrity status and nothing more. No overlords are taking an interest in her. Angels like Lute fault Adam's demise on Charlie instead of Nifty, despite seeing Nifty excessively stab the shit out of Adam, and yet she's just left to her own devices. Still working at the hotel unbothered. Charlie also argues that Nifty killed Adam in self-defense, and maybe in the grand scheme of the extermination, but in the context of the moment itself? No, she didn't, bro. Adam was just throwing a hissy fit over the fact that he lost the battle. There was nothing he could have done in this moment to turn the tides back in his favor. Charlie was explicitly trying to ensure that Adam wasn't killed, and Nifty just sneak attacked him. Again, it just goes to show that Charlie's usual line of thinking will not be enough to get her out of this situation. Things are a lot more complex than they seem, and killing Adam, for now, has arguably only made things worse. Vox's Robo Pet Shark finally gets a name, Shockwave. I love this design so much. And Vox holds a meeting for the Vees, scolding them for their bad behavior. And it leads to a moment that was definitely supposed to be meta and acknowledge a criticism of the series, only to follow it up with a joke that I'm sure has already ticked off a lot of people. Vox tells Valentino to stop hitting Angel Dust in public because it's not funny anymore, which feels like Hasben acknowledging how people have criticized it for wanting to tackle serious subjects like abusive relationships, but then use that same subject matter as a vehicle for jokes. So Vox telling Val to cut back on the abuse feels like they're acknowledging it, but then when Val asks for proof and we get this supercut of him wailing on Angel with cartoony sound effects, it just feels a little totally confused and like they're not really taking the criticism to heart. I get it, the Vees are the villains, but it definitely comes across as a weird joke with how they set it up. Velvet is evidently on bad terms with Carmilla Carmine, which puts the Vees at a disadvantage as she makes weapons. She supplied the weaponry for the hotel to fight back against the extermination, so Vox is well aware that she's a valuable asset for his quest to conquer heaven, which is his end goal. He wants to use the hotel's messy reputation and all the riled up bloodlusted sinners to expand his reign across the entire afterlife. He's itching to go full dictator. Charlie and Lucifer have a heart-to-heart about the pressure that comes with the positions they're in, and how they're both doing their best to manage without Lilith, and how they both strive to be like her. She was an amazing leader, in tune with the desires of her people, and knew how to stay focused on her goal, not getting derailed by anything. Lucifer also reveals she left Hell 8 years ago, which feels like will be an important detail down the road. After their conversation, Charlie tries to call her mom, but Lilith refuses to pick up, despite Lute demanding she intervenes before the afterlife status quo completely destabilizes. We actually get to see Lilith's perspective of the scene in episode 2. Charlie tries to evoke her mother's energy, trying to persuade dissatisfied sinners into staying at the hotel, but she fails. Honestly, I think this goes to show that the kind of leader Charlie's meant to be is one who's different from her mother. Trying to be just like her won't work out. Charlie has to figure out what her own strengths are. After getting grilled on the internet for their verse in Hasben Guarantee, Vox is able to redeem the Vees with a fantastic song, Once We Get Up There, convincing them that they'll all benefit from invading heaven, but once again, he quickly loses sight of his two allies and reveals his true desire to be a lone ruler, exacting revenge on everyone who ever looked down on him. No longer singing Once We Get Up There, but instead just Once I Get Up There. But Velvet and Valentino are able to play it off for him, even though they're totally onto him. Vaggy's trying to find a new name as Adam named her after his own lustful desires, and all I'll say is, this little subplot will be very underwhelming once it's all said and done. It's hard for me to comment because you can already assume from the amount of merch of Vaggy's name on it that any name change she has won't be too crazy. 666 News issues a new story that establishes Charlie as a threat who wants to limit what sinners are able to do, forbidding them from killing angels despite her crew and a bunch of cannibals getting away with it. And the irony of it all is that putting a collar on everyone and forcing hell to obey her is ultimately what Vox is aiming for. His fear-mongering is just projecting his intentions onto Charlie, and it's working. And as if that wasn't enough, Emily pops in with a huge bombshell that redemption works, and heaven is about to go into lockdown in response to Adam's death. Yo! This brings us to episode 2, Storyteller, which is actually one of my favorites of the season. Episodes that are focused entirely on the extended cast but still push the story forward are my jam. Our beloved Sir Pentious is on trial in heaven after getting no-diffed by Adam and reincarnating as an angel. His arrival, alongside the death of Adam, has exposed the existence of the exterminations to Sarah's colleagues, who are furious and confused about everything that's been going down behind their backs. Imagine governing the best place in the afterlife and finding out your boss has been authorizing genocide underneath your nose, and now it's put everyone in a position where they may be under attack, with the head of their army slain at the scene of his crimes. The council also reminds us that despite being a sad sack 90% of the time, Lucifer is still seen as a big deal, with one of the angels questioning if the morning star will return, which isn't referring to Charlie, but the king of hell himself. With the way things go, I definitely think Lucifer's past in heaven will be a bigger focus in season 3, so it's good they're planting the seeds now. Unfortunately, this episode backtracks on the developments at the end of season 1 with Lute and Lilith. Previously, Lute was appointed the new leader of the Exorcist after Adam's demise, and she confronted Lilith, demanding that she put her daughter in check. Lilith presumably laying low in heaven, while her family struggles to keep everything afloat in hell without her. Best mom ever! But instead of actually getting to explore any of that, at least in this season, Lute's promotion is yanked right out of her hands with the introduction of Abel, Adam's softy of a son who's extremely indecisive, and those two things landed him on Adam's shit list, with Lute being just as much of a hater. Abel is voiced by Patrick Stump, lead vocalist of Fall Out Boy, so you know any song with him is about to go crazy. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Abel was a character they always had planned, but didn't necessarily know would be introduced so soon after the season finale when they were writing season 1. It just seems really odd to end season 1 on that cliffhanger, only to fake out the audience. We're also introduced to the Speaker of God, a phoenix-like angel who serves as a moderator for this meeting, making Pentious feel comfortable enough to open up about his life journey, getting the ball rolling on the first of many backstories this season. Pentious, real name Pendleton, was an extremely introverted inventor who was largely withdrawn from society, but adored people watching from afar as a way of feeling connected to his community, even when he shouldn't have been. Maybe part of the reason you went to hell was because you used your neighbors as the hub, my guy. Pentious never spoke up or took action for anything in his life. He just observed and kept quiet, which is exactly what cemented his fate in the afterlife. As it turns out, one of his clients was a serial killer. Not just any serial killer, but all signs point to it being Jack the Ripper. The time period, setting, and number of victims largely add up, though in the Helliverse, Pentious confirms Jack actually killed 6 women in his lifetime before vanishing, getting away with it all because Pentious never had the courage to take a stand. And I imagine it was probably for a variety of selfish reasons. What if Jack doesn't get arrested and finds out it was Pentious? Turning Jack in means Pentious loses a client, so what if he takes a major hit to his income? Old Pendleton was too concerned about himself, and it allowed innocent lives to be taken right before his eyes. Now, I believe connecting Pentious to Jack will be important for the future of the series, as it makes sense it'll eventually tackle the question of who can and can't be redeemed by the hotel, something that they're more than likely going to explore of not only established characters, but real-life villains. Can Osama be redeemed, Charlie? Bringing Jack back in the future would be a great way to explore Pentious' guilt, while also forcing Charlie to draw a line in the sand and accept that maybe redemption isn't cut out for everyone. This backstory also reveals how sinners are redeemed. They have to atone for the sins that brought them to hell in the first place. Pentious didn't do jack shit when Jack was on his shit, allowing him to kill all of those women. But Pentious did risk his own life to protect Cherry Bomb. That was the key that awarded him a second chance in the afterlife. So as we learn more backstories throughout this season, ask yourselves how those characters could be redeemed and if it's even possible for such a thing to occur. I find Lute so endearing to watch in this episode because while she cemented herself as pretty awful, it's interesting to see how the extermination is affecting players on both sides. And while we know she's wrong about a lot, it's actually not hard to see where she's coming from, or at least how she's reaching these conclusions. She pitches the idea that all of this is actually a scheme by Lucifer to gain power for an uprising. that the hotel is just smoke and mirrors by the Morningstar family to gather sinners for an angel-killing army. The very thing Charlie is actively opposing from forming in her hotel. Yet I don't think this is a conclusion she came to on her own. This might have been a theory postulated by Adam or another high-ranking angel we've yet to meet. Either way, if this is the impression she's under, watching Adam get slain before her eyes as sinners get their hands on angelic weaponry is going to validate those crazy beliefs. Not only has Adam's death left her deeply traumatized, but now she feels like no one's in her corner as heaven is wandering right into hell's trap. And no one wants to stop the fall of their paradise but her. Again, she's clearly off base, but you can see how she made it here. I dig that Abel wears a mask similar to Adam's, but with different horns. It feels like with time he could grow into someone who's just as effective a leader as Adam apparently was, but without all the character flaws and general douchebaggery. Sarah brings the hammer down on Lute and forces her to call off Lilith, bringing us to our seasonal cameo from the Queen of Hell, where we can see her perspective of when Charlie called her last episode. Not much to really chew on with this, but I do like the little Easter eggs with her apple slices and her phone case being the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. This episode introduces another major conflict in this season, with Pentious being unable to return to hell for some reason. Emily makes it sound like a physical restraint, and Pentious' drill can't penetrate the ground, which makes me wonder if those who ascend to heaven are physically stuck there, born in heaven are able to go anywhere in the afterlife. During the song No One Like You, we can see Angel Dust's sister Molly in the crowd, making her second cameo in the series thus far. Now that Pentious is in heaven, I think it makes sense that he'll inevitably cross paths with Molly, and that'll end up looping back around to Angel's arc. Eventually. I like that no one really knows what the appropriate next move is when it comes to hell, because on one hand, heaven was committing a genocide! The exterminations were objectively terrible! It's gonna be hard to argue that they don't deserve a taste of their own medicine. But on the other hand, hell did kill the head of their army, so even if Adam was a dick, that's not good optics. And I don't think the angels who didn't even know about the exterminations are going to willingly accept their demise as retribution. It's a really interesting situation to put these characters in, but unfortunately, indecisiveness is the name of the game in heaven. The only person who's ready to make a move is, surprise, surprise, Lute, who again is going through it, as she's beginning to hallucinate Adam, who post-mortem is eager to be the devil on her shoulder. His memory is effectively her Green Goblin. Man, you can't escape bad mental health days even in heaven. At least tell me the Wellbutrin's on the house. I don't need angelic insurance or anything, right? We discover that Lute's been using Adam's office as a rage room, keeping his bloody axe frame to commemorate his final battle. And we get a peak villain song, Gravity, an absolute bop that's dedicated to Lute's desire for revenge. But unfortunately, this is kind of where she peaks in the season. Don't expect her to do much from here on out, despite the fact that this absolutely paints her as the secondary antagonist of the season behind Vox, expressing her desire to kill Vaggie in order to settle the score and make Charlie suffer for killing Adam. Even though again, it was nifty! And unable to reach a decision on hell, Sarah bides her time by putting heaven in lockdown mode, forcing Emily to alert Charlie of what's going down before she's unable to contact her. And that's all we have for this premiere. The season's only gonna get crazier with each passing week, but again, I really enjoyed that second episode. Something about just being in heaven and focusing on characters like Sarah and Lute really hit different for me. But as always, these are just my thoughts, and I want to hear yours. Do you think we'll see Jack the Ripper again? And what would you do in Sarah's position? Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below, and keep the conversation going over on Twitter and Instagram at AlsharkVox and at Roundtable Vids. If you enjoyed this video, please sort of like and subscribe to the Roundtable notifications on so you never miss a Hazbin Hotel video. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have an awesome day. Peace!